Hi, it's Bea with Crafting Daily Dose, and today I have another alternative for the November 2021 paper pumpkin called Gifts Galore. I've done ones with the Christmas tree and snowman die cut, and today I'm focused on the stack of presents. This is a slider card where you can pull on this bow, and the whole stack of presents opens up. And actually, it's two different alternatives because I'll show you this version with just the die cut. And then there's also this version, which gives you room to share a gift card. And on the inside, I've used the stamps to create some simple decorations. If you'd like to try out these cards, there's no time like the present, so let's get started. I'll be using these pieces for our interactive card. The card base is Poppy Parade cardstock. It's a standard A2 landscape card base, so that means it's 11 inches across, 4¼ inches high, scored down the middle along the long side at 5½ inches. I have two pieces of basic white cardstock. They are each 5¼ inches by 4 inches. And then I have an additional piece of basic white cardstock. It's 5¼ inches, this time only 3 inches high. These two little pieces are a part of the mechanism. They're both the same size. It's 1½ inches by 1/2 inch high, and then it's been scored down the middle at 3/4 inch. Now, if you're doing the version that's the plain interactive slider, this is all you'll need. If you want to do the version that holds a gift card, you'll need one more piece. It's basic white cardstock, and it's 4¼ inches across by 3¼ inches high. Now, I am using a lot of colors of ink for this one to stamp the presents on the inside of the card. I'm using the ones that match the kit, so they are Poppy Parade, Flirty Flamingo, which is the color that comes with the kits, Old Olive, Pool Party, and Evening Evergreen. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of ink colors yet, don't worry about it. Instead of stamping the inside the same, you could just stamp a single present and make a contrasting bow or even a black bow, and it would still look really cute. I'll show you a way of cutting some of the first few pieces so that it makes efficient use of your paper. So if you start out with a sheet of basic white cardstock, you can cut it this way at 5¼ inches. And so then you'll get a piece that looks something like this. Now don't forget that from the remainder of the paper, you'll need to cut out the other 1 or 2 pieces depending on what kind of card you're making, but this top section will take care of these 3 pieces without waste. You can then cut this piece down so that you cut at 4 inches here and you get 1 piece, another 4 inches here, and you get a second piece. One is going to be for the front of the card and one's going to be for the inside of the card. And then you're left with this little 1/2 inch strip. And this can be cut down to create part of your mechanism. So here's that 1/2 inch strip left over from the side, and we're going to cut it down to make 2 pieces like this. When I'm creating really small pieces, I find it a lot easier to start out with something bigger and then just cut it down. So I'm going to put this under my trimmer, and I'm using the measurements that are on the right-hand side. I'm going to put it at 3/4 inch and score it. Then I'm going to move it to 1½ inches, which is really just the end of this white area right here. This time I'm using the darker blade to cut it. And there I have one of the pieces that I need. I'm going to make another one just like it. So score at 3/4 inch. Cut at 1½ inches. And all this extra length on the side here gives me room to move it around and manipulate it easily. Okay, that's it for those 2 little strips. So this is one of those bigger pieces like I showed you how to cut, but we're going to be using it in landscape position, and I like to give my width measurements first. So it is 5¼ inches by 4 inches high. And we're going to cut a slit basically in the middle of this. To do that, we are going to put our paper at 2 5/8 of an inch. So that's right here. And then for the first cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot it over just a little tiny bit to the right. So not even all the way to the next tick mark, it's maybe halfway in between. So that's basically 1/32 of an inch less than 2 5/8. But don't get too hung up on the numbers. Just go to 2 5/8 and scoot it over a little bit to the right. Now we're going to do some partial cutting at this position. So I'm moving my blade up to the 1/2 inch mark. I'm matching up the notch on the side of my cutting blade with the measurements that are on the side here. We're going to go from 1/2 inch down to 3 7/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to put my paper back at that 2 5/8 of an inch. So I'm barely scooting it back to the left. And now I'm going to scoot it just a little bit more to the left. So just past that mark. And I'm making that same cut again. So it goes from 1/2 inch down to 3 7/8. Since my blade is already in this position, I'll just start from the bottom and go up. Okay, so this is what we have. You can see that there's just a little sliver here, and I'm going to take my snips and I'm just going to cut that off. And that creates the slit that we need. This is the optional gift card holder, and as a reminder, it's 4 1/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. We're going to need to make several cuts on this, so let's start first with the long side along the top. You're going to place it at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm starting out with the measurements on my right hand side, putting it at 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to do some partial cutting again here. I'm starting at 3/4 of an inch and going down to 3 inches. So that's what it looks like so far. Now I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch from the other side. So this time I'm using the measurements here, and I'm placing my paper at 3/4 of an inch. I'm making that same cut from 3/4 of an inch down to 3 inches. My blade is already in position here, so this time I'm going from bottom to top. Here's what it looks like so far. Okay, now I'm going to trim along the top here. So I'm rotating my paper clockwise. I want to check and make sure that these slits that I've cut, there's more room here on the right hand side than on the left. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, I'm going to place this now at the 1/2 inch position. Looking at my measurements on the right, I'm placing it at 1/2, and I'm going to do 2 partial cuts here. So the first starts out at the top, and I'm going down to 1 3/8 of an inch. Then I'm picking up my blade, and I'm going to move it down to 3 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to cut all the way off to the end. So it's a funny asymmetrical tab that we are creating here. I'm just going to take my snips and I'm going to cut across this way to cut off those tabs. So this is what it looks like. We're done with the trimmer, and now I'm going to prepare this die cut by cutting off the bottom row of presents with my snips. I'm going to try to even out some of this border around the bow. If you're doing the first version of the card, you're going to want to even out the bottom edge here and then cut into that triangular space. So this gives you the first version of the card. If you want to do the gift card holder instead, then you're going to concentrate on cutting off this top present right here. So you'll save this one, and then you'll still have 3 presents that you can use on other projects. Now we get to do some stamping. I'm stamping on top of my silicone mat, which gives me a little bit of cushion, which I like to have under my paper when I'm stamping with clear photopolymer stamps. I'm going to be stamping off the edge a little bit too, and so this helps to protect my surface. Now this is the piece that is 5 1/4 inches by 3 inches. It's part of the front of the card, and that bottom row of presents that we cut out is going to be glued on top of it like this, so that the top edge of this is flush with the top edge of this panel. The bow is going to stick up a little bit. I'm going to use this space down here to stamp my sentiment, and either the Happy Holidays or the Merry Christmas will fit here. I'm choosing Merry Christmas this time, and notice that it is longer than the block that comes with your first paper pumpkin, but it will fit on the diagonal. So go ahead and place part of it down, and then I like to let the rest just kind of fall on its own. That helps it to lay straighter because then I'm not accidentally forcing it into a bent position. I'm choosing to stamp with Evening Evergreen ink, and I'm leaving that die cut in place to help me gauge the amount of space. Next, we're stamping the inside panel of the card. It's the one that's 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches, the one that we did not cut into. I'm starting with Pool Party ink, and I'm using the present stamp, and I'll stamp that vertically. Now you could stop there, but I'll show you a way to change up the look. Next, I'm going to turn the stamp over and stamp it horizontally right on top of my image from before. And then finally, I'm going to stamp horizontally again, doing my best to match up the diagonal stripes from previously. My next present uses the Flirty Flamingo ink from the kit, and remember, you could always just stamp one present and it would look perfectly cute. I'm stamping the last present in Old Olive. I'll stamp 2 of the bows in Poppy Parade. And then the last one in Evening Evergreen. And now we're ready to assemble. If you're making the first version of the card, you'll be using this, and if you're using the gift card version, you'll be using this piece. Either way, you want to turn it over to the back, and then you want to make a mark that is 2 1/8 of an inch from the edge. You're basically finding the halfway point. And that mark is going to be your guide for placing on these little tabs. These are the little ones that we had cut before. They're each going to be folded as mountain folds like this. And you'll want to reinforce them well with the bone folder. Now take some glue and put it on one side of those tabs. Go all the way to the crease and all the way to the edges. You're then going to glue this to one side of the mark that you made. I'm going to do it on the left-hand side first, but it doesn't really matter. Put the folded side of the tab up against that mark and line up the bottom edges. Then I'll take another one. And I'll glue it to the other side of the mark. So that's what it looks like, and then from the side, it looks like this. If you're doing the gift card holder, you'll do the same thing. Put glue on one side of one of the tabs and glue it in place. Then put glue on one side of the other tab and put it onto the other side of your guide mark. Next, you're going to thread whichever piece that you're using through the slits on this panel. Now notice that you want to turn the panel so that there's more room up here at the top than at the bottom. So you're not using it like this, you want to turn it this way. And what you'll do is you'll grab one of these, pinch the two tabs together, and then you're going to feed them through the slit, just like that. So here's what it looks like from the front, and then if you turn it over on the back, you're going to push those tabs down. So now when you pull on the top of the die cut, your piece slides up and down along that track. If you're using the gift card holder, it's the same thing. So let me take this one out. You'll pinch up the tabs, feed them through the slit, and then open up the tabs. Here's what it looks like so far from the front. And up here at the top is where we're going to be gluing that die cut. Once you have your piece threaded in place, you're going to go ahead and put some Stampin' Seal around the edges. You want to make sure to avoid this area here. You don't want any adhesive on that because then that's going to prevent this piece from moving up and down. It's a good idea to go ahead and reinforce those folds again with your bone folder. And then you'll want to put it onto your card base. Make sure that your card is opening in the correct position. When you're setting that panel in, don't make it too tight. You want there to be a little bit of slack in the middle so that that slider can move freely. You'll want to check and make sure that everything slides nicely, and if it does, then go ahead and press down on the places where you had adhesive. Next, take the panel that you stamped on and then the bottom row from the presents die cut, and you're going to glue them together. Don't put any glue in the area behind the bow because that's going to be poking up and that doesn't stick to anything. You're going to align the top edges. Now you'll want to put some foam along the edges here. You can use the dimensional foam stickers, or I'm just going to use some foam adhesive sheet that I have trimmed down. They're both the same thickness, so you can use them interchangeably, and you can trim any of them down to the size that you need. So I want to put it along the strip. I don't want to interfere with my piece that's going to move up and down, and I don't want it to go any higher than the top edge of this piece, which is about 3 inches from the bottom edge. my piece is going to be a little bit too wide, so I'm going to trim it down. And now this other panel is going to go right on top. If you use the die cut, it's the same process and it's going to look like this. For the gift card holder, we have to glue this back on, and I saved it for last because I want to make sure that it doesn't go above the top of the card. So I'll go ahead and pull this up. And I'll put glue on this little tab here. I'll go ahead and put the present on, and then I'll slide it back down as far as it can go. And if I need to push down my present a little bit further, I can adjust it before the glue sets. Once the glue has set, go ahead and pull up on the present. And then you can load in your gift card. So it just slides under the pieces that are on the side. So tuck it under the left-hand side and then slide it under the right. And then you'll slide it back. The last step is to go ahead and put in our stamped panel on the inside of the card. So here are our finished cards. This one has just the die cut. And this one has the gift card as well. And on the inside, we got to use some of those fun stamps. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this dose of creativity. If you get a chance to try out the projects, I would love to see them. Go ahead and tag me, or you can share it in my Facebook group. If you're interested in Paper Pumpkin and don't have a demonstrator yet, you can find the subscription link as well as all my other links in the description box below. I hope to see you again next time, and until then, have a great day.